What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new tactic, and today it is going to be the meta 5-2-3. That is right, a defensive tactic that overachieved with absolutely everyone. A lot of fun to play with, and it has been requested quite a fair bit. If you do enjoy the tactics, be sure to leave a like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell. As always, we have 3 tactics today. We have a default tactic, a more attacking tactic for your better teams or to change to, and an underdog tactic or to switch to defend your games out with. Let's get into the first tactic, and this one, it's not going to let you down. We're going to waste no time today. We're instantly going to load in a create your own style, so it is going to be obviously a clean slate tactic, and we are going to select a 5-2-3, and let's go ahead and build this tactic then. So I will say, if you want to get access to all 3 of the tactics today, you want them on console, you want them on mobile, you want all of my rebuild files, there's 2 to 3 a week of those alone. You also want priority in the tactic requests, rebuild requests, you want one-on-one tactical help, and also access to this month's giveaway, which is £400. You can come over and get involved, because at the end of the day, we offer some pretty cool perks, and that's why there's close to 5,000 people. So come on over and get involved, you will not regret it. But let's go over and talk through these player roles then. So we are going to go through and go basically off a default goalkeeper. I kept it nice and simple, because when you're playing a 5-2-3, my mind assumes that you are going to be playing with maybe a little bit of a weaker team, something like that. So I've kept the goalkeeper nice and reserved. Now, when it actually comes to the sort of back line, I have gone with 2 ball-playing defenders, and this is purely down to whether you can play them or not. So, for example, if you're playing really low down in English football, maybe you've not got the quality to deploy a ball-playing defender, you could also use central defenders or wide centre-backs to make that very, very clear. But on these, we are going to, of course, tell them to stay wider. And the reason why this is done is purely because their job is to actually provide a little bit of width in the back three. The wing-backs are going to push on. Of course, they sort of have to provide something going, you know, forwards in this system and provide a little bit of attack and threat. Now, going over to the middle, we are actually going to have what it says on the tin, a central defender on cover. Again, I prefer having a cover option opposed to a stopper option in a sort of not negative, but a 5-back tactic, because we are obviously factoring in you probably are playing with weaker opposition. Of course, you can deploy this with a Man City if you really wanted to, but a lot of people do like this sort of style in old school English leagues, you know, tough challenging leagues. People deploy a 5-2-3. Now, the wing backs are both going to be on support, funny enough, and they are going to have some instructions. We're going to tell them actually to cross more. We're going to have them also to cross aim at the centre. We're going to have them on run wide and also tackle harder. Not only is that going to be done on the left-hand side, but that is also going to be exactly the same for the right-hand side. So again, cross more, cross at the centre. We're going to have them on tackle harder and also have them on run wide with the ball. So exactly the same to the left and the right hand side. Nice and simple. Now, going over to the midfield, we have gone with 2 deeper options for this first tactic. And of course, you are going to see 2 sets of results with this tactic, then a more attacking one, a set of results, and the real underdog tactic, again, another set of results. But this tactic will focus on that. The DM is going to be set to support, and we are going to have some instructions, quite a few to be fair. We are going to have him on take fewer risks, shoot less often, and also tackle harder. Now, this DM's job here is to just be a DM. Don't get forward, don't really do anything too drastic. Nice, simple passes, take fewer risks, don't have shots. Just another player to help defend, basically, because the next player we have next to him is going to be more of an attack-and-minded player, a roaming playmaking, as it says on the tin. Nice and simple, and for him, I've simply got him on move into the channels. Just a player that is going to find different pockets of space, because there's a lot of space to find in this massive gap here, and that is exactly why we have gone with a Roman playmaker, opposed to, example, for a deep line playmaker, because I want someone that is going to sort of be finding them different pockets of space, and he gets it done really, really well. Now, because we have got actually quite a reserved team, to be honest, a defensive back three, the wing backs are somewhat attacking, but obviously they're not literally attacking. We've got a DM, the only real player that is going to be pushing up apart from the wingbacks is obviously that Roman playmaker, and even him, he is not going to be going all the way up. This is why we have gone with 2 inside forwards, which are both going to be set to attack. Now, again, I will say for this, I always like to give this as a little bit of a heads up. If you are playing in a team where your inside forwards have got ridiculous finishing, you can go with shoot more often. But for me, we didn't really have that as an option, so we are going to go with shoot less often and roam from position. Now, shoot less often isn't just used to not have shots at the goal, because the players haven't got good finishing. That also will encourage more link-up play between the front three and not really let them have as many shots, which can actually result in more goals for your advanced forward, which we've got here, who is simply going to be on the default. But let's go through and talk through these team instructions. Again, this is going to be on the clean slate, on the positive mentality, to clarify that, and let's go into the in possession. So we are going to have it on fairly wide. We're going to leave it nice and simple. Again, there's enough width in the team. You can see it here. The back five, the wing backs provide the width. You also got the inside forwards are going to be out wide, then come inside, but naturally they are going to provide width from the get-go. We are going to pass into space because this is definitely not a tiki-taka tactic. I'm going to say that and make that very clear. We're going to overlap left and overlap right. Again, not afraid to get these wing backs involved. We're going to focus down the right and the left as well. Again, the width is enough to do this. The inside forwards and the wing backs are a really, really good combo. Not really too much point playing through the middle because, of course, we've only really got one player that will be creating through the middle, so it would be a very, very stupid decision. We are going to hit early crosses because, again, the wing backs are going to push up. We're going to run at defence, and for the first time in a long time, we're actually going to leave these both in the middle, because when you are playing as a bit of a weaker team, not everyone has got these players that can hack play in a real intense style. So for now, we're going to keep it nice and simple. In transition, we are going to go with regroup, again, purely because maybe you've not got the players that can counter-press over 30, 40 games a season. We're going to counter and play to the centre-backs while simply rolling the ball out. And lastly, out of possession, we are going to go with the mid-block and the standard line, funny enough, and the slightly more often. So what you see on the screen is what you're going to get. But let's go over and see how we actually done with these tactics. We tested with two teams. Then we're going to go over to a bit more of an attacking tactic, which, little spoiler, got Nottingham Forest second place in the Premier League. So definitely stick by for that one. But let's go and see how we done with this tactic. So the first test is going to be with Bath City, and I've not tested in the Vanarama Leagues in quite some time, so it was quite refreshing to actually get there. The English FA Trophy and the FA Cup didn't go too well, but I will say we are never going to beat Tottenham Hotspur. But with Bath, a team that aren't the best of the best in this league, we have come out and still put on a very, very good season. As you can see, first and second top goal scorer, first and second average rating, first and second most assists, and the most clean sheets. We only lost 2 games. Yes, we did draw 7, and this is why I always say have all 3 tactics at your disposal, because you can go to the attack and tactic if you are playing back home, and possibly we could have turned a lot of them draws into wins. Now, going over to the stats, we are going to be looking at 133 goals, 753 shots for, only 388 shots against, the most dribbles, fewest conceded, and the most clean sheets. We've pretty much dominated every stat line. Even possession, 54%. I will be honest, this is probably the average you're going to be getting with this tactic. It is not based around possession, just to make that very clear again. But going over to the data hub, you can be expecting 2.89 goals per game, only 0.54 conceded, over 16 shots a match, a great pass completion, and actually quite a high tackle win ratio. Usually with the smaller teams, that gets sacrificed a little bit because their decision making isn't the best, but for us, it worked really well. We also did run quite a big team through this tactic as well. We went with Wrexham, obviously not a Man City, a Chelsea, but they are very big for the Sky Bet League too. And again, the rest of the trophies weren't as pretty, but the league we done really, really well in. And once again, we only lost 2 games out of 46. We've got Paul Mullen there coming in with 33 goals. We've got Ford and Connor both coming in with 15 joint assists. Really good to see. The third most amount of clean sheets and the highest average rating. Now, what I noticed about this tactic is I wanted to see how the default tactic performed with a powerhouse. Now, it's a powerhouse in Sky Bet League 2, and it performed really well. Again, a similar story is to be told with the draws coming in. If you have got the attack and tactic as well, we could have easily converted some of these draws into more wins, but despite drawing 8 games, we still win the league by an absolute load of points. The most goals at 112, the fewest conceded, the most shots, the fewest shots against. We'll check the possession, down with 54% again, so that is going to be your key average stat line. And going over to that data hub, we are going to be looking at 2.43 goals per game, only 0.89 conceded, bang on 15 shots a match. Very rarely you see a bang on number. That's quite interesting. A decent tackle win ratio, pass completion of 88.34, which is quite high for this style. Overall, despite only winning the 1 trophy, we're never really going to get anywhere in the FA Cup. Not bad in the Carabao Cup, to be honest, to get to the quarterfinals, but I'm going to take that and run. Let's watch some highlights. So this is going to be one of the last games against Tranmere in what is actually going to be a 4-1 win. We get off to a great start inside of 3 minutes, and from that point onwards, we just kept going more and more direct, more into the box to make it 2-0 there. They do get a penalty, they do stick away, but to be honest, it meant absolutely nothing, as we put in one of the better set pieces I've seen ever on this channel, which again is a key reminder: go and get the set pieces. Of course, Patreons get them for free anyway, but if you purely just want to get those, you can go over and get them individually. They work really, really well, and I will say, it helps a lot in these lower league football, but set pieces aside, we still are able to come out and absolutely dominate a game, and on this occasion, 65% possession. But now for the tactic that got me actually top 4 with Nottingham Forest, 2nd place to be exact, and we just took over. It's a bit more of an attacking version of a 5-2-3. It still is a 5-2-3, but I do feel, I'm a big believer in when you're playing in the Premier League with a Forest, with a Burnley, something like that, going a little bit more attacking actually catches a lot of teams off guard. Now, I will make this very clear before I break down one thing about this tactic. Yes, I simulated around about 60% of the games with this, but a lot of them I actually was going into game by game and changing what tactic I was using. So for example, before I went on holiday, I'd go to the attacking version, which we're now going to break down. When I was playing Man City, I'll go in with a balanced version. I was using all 3 tactics, which is why I do say, when you run your tests, when you play back home, make sure you've got all 3, because you can't just have one tactic for an entire season. It simply doesn't work. Unless you're playing with like a PSG, then obviously it sort of does. But when you're playing with a team like Forest, you've got to be very, very strategical. What you're doing, what you're deploying, you've got to be doing it. But let's go over and talk about the player roles. So the goalkeeper is simply going to be on defend. The back line actually does remain exactly the same in terms of the centre-backs. The wing-backs, as you can see, also remain exactly the same. Again, it would be very silly to have the wing-backs on attack as well as the inside forwards, because we are Nottingham Forest. Now, if you are playing as a Man City or something, you could probably get away with it, but for us, we've kept it nice and reserved. We're going to introduce a box-to-box. Of course, the first big change is the fact that these 2 DMs are now more centralised options. On support on get further forwards, the Roman playmaker. On support on move into channels. The inside forward, again, is going to be on exactly the same instruction, purely just to not waste the small chances we might get. And the advanced forward does remain exactly the same. So the real key changes is to push up in the midfield, and that pretty much is what fully converts this tactic into being a lot more attacking. There are some key changes in the team instructions, so let's get into it. Mentality is now going to be set to attacking, still on the clean slate though. We're going to leave this in the middle 2 fairly wide. We're going to pass into the space while overlapping left, overlapping right, focusing down the left and the right hand side of the pitch. When it comes to the final third, we are still going to be getting the balls in quite early by hitting early crosses. This is where it changes us a little bit, because to compete at the high level, you have sort of got to play a higher tempo in this game. I will be honest, when you're playing some of the big boys, going in with this higher tempo is really, really effective, because they're not really expecting it, and you do catch a lot of people off guard. And if that doesn't catch them off guard, running at the defence and being more expressive, they're not going to expect that from the Nottingham Forest team. In transition, we are going to hit them with the counter press and the counter. We're going to distribute quickly, play to the centre-backs, and roll the ball out. Now, I know I did say when you're playing as a small team, you can't play a gegenpress, a counter press. Obviously, Forest are a big step up from the previous teams we've shown, and as long as you're training, rotating, and resting, you will be completely fine. If you want help, you can go over and get the training schedules as well, but if you do them 3 principles, you'll be entirely fine for a Premier League season. And also, just make sure you've got good depth naturally in the squad. And lastly, out of possession, we are going to go with the high pressing line of engagement, a higher defensive line, step up more, get stuck in, and the trigger press, well, we're going to max that out. So let's go and see how the Meta 523 actually performed over a whole season with Nottingham Forest. This is what we achieved with Forest, and I am absolutely buzzing. We are 3 points off winning a Premier League title. Again, the cups weren't great. Quarterfinals in the Carabao Cup, knocked out against Villa. Tottenham knocked us out in the FA Cup. But of course, the main attraction is going to be this Premier League, where we're not going to get the top goal scorer. Erling Haaland does exist, although we joint, so we'll take that. Alanga with 24. We've got the 2 best average ratings. We've got 3 most players with assists, which is really, really good. Which I will say, the thing which probably didn't let us down, because we finished second, I've got to be realistic, tactic is we did concede a few goals against some of the big boys, which is why I will say make sure you've got all three so you can switch to the defensive tactic, to the balanced tactic when you go in against these big giants. Now, if we go and look actually at the stats, this is what we're going to see. So goal scoring, we were absolutely incredible. Outscored everyone. We really took the game to everyone by most dribbles, most goals. Conceded, we're going to be down in 5th. So I feel like I took the gamble and it did pay off, because obviously a second place finish with Forest is absolutely nuts. But if you are trying to go a little bit more consistent, you can balance out the 3 and really build up that consistency. But if we look at the data hub, we still conceded under a goal a game. We scored over 3.3, 15 shots a game, a great pass completion, and a very good tackle win ratio. I'm going to take them results every single day. Last game of the season against Manchester United, we get off to a great start there inside of a minute to make it 1-0. To be fair to United, I believe it was Xerxes. I did play this one. Xerxes tucks it in to the bottom right hand corner, but from that point onwards, 60 minutes on, we absolutely took over, and this goal was to actually, you know, get back the lead. But I remember Manchester United fell apart really towards, and I mean the right end of the game now. I believe 96 minutes, 92 minutes it was, in to Tofolo, into Alanga, down the left, in the middle. A great finish, so easy, and still time for one more goal. They completely collapsed, and this is to win the game 4-1. But then, of course, what happens if you're playing with a team which maybe is not very good? Maybe they're very low down in the leagues. Maybe you want to be a bit more of a safe option. Maybe you want to defend a game out with a powerhouse team. This is where this tactic comes in, and we are going to be testing this with Plymouth, so quite the challenge. Now, we are going to go over and talk about the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper and the back line almost remain the same, although the ball-playing defenders now do have no reason to stay wider, because the wing-backs are simply going to be on defend, on tackle harder, and mark tighter. They're not going to be pushing up. They're going to be holding their position, so if you imagine, you don't need the ball-playing defender here, because the wing-back is going to be there anyway. They then are going to introduce an anchor, a more direct, tackle harder, and also mark tighter, with more direct passes, and next to him, more direct passes, take fewer risks, shoot less often, and tackle harder on a DM. Now, we have gone incredibly direct with this system, and I've gone with this because a lot of people, I've seen a comment basically, I've seen a few comments saying, you know, direct tactics, long ball. This will fulfill that. It will play that sort of style of play. Now, I will say it does not offer as many attractive stat lines. Obviously, possession is going to go right out of the window, but I feel like we had a strong season with Plymouth, which obviously you'll see very shortly. So I would say it does work, and it is a way of playing which, especially when you're trying to defend a game out, is actually quite effective, because you've got literally here, you've got a back 7. You're not going to concede a goal, and just having these two on them more direct passes, you can still catch opposition off guard and play a long ball over, find the inside forwards, on support, on shoot less, and roam. And the advanced forward, I would never change that role, because he is going to be making a lot of good runs in behind, moving into channels. It's what you want him to be doing. Now, on the balanced mentality, on the clean slate, we're going to leave this on standard. We're going to pass into the space. We are still going to be hitting the early crosses. We are going to still be running at the defence, but this is where the real tactic changes. First of all, this remains completely blank. The tempo goes down by 1, directness goes up by 1, so it's going to be slightly lower and slightly more direct. In transition, we are going to go with regroup, counter, and simply take long goal kicks. So again, we're not using too much energy right now. You know, if we go back to in possession, slightly lower, very low energy levels. In transition, we're going to regroup. We're not going to be counter pressing. They can come to us. When we've got the ball, we'll ping it up and we'll go for a counter attack. And lastly, when it comes to out of possession, we are going to leave this to less often the mid block and the standard defensive line. So it's a very sort of friendly tactic in terms of how strenuous it is to play. A lot more direct and a lot less of a high intense game. How well did it do with Plymouth over an entire season? And I will say with Plymouth, we only used this one. So with Plymouth, we didn't win the league, we didn't finish second, and we did get promoted though. We do actually go on to win the playoff final. We actually beat Leicester 3-1, or 3-2 actually, over 2 legs there, and we actually matched up against, if we go into the playoffs, into the final, we matched off against Ipswich Town, which we won 3-1 in extra time. So obviously 2 goals in extra time there. Despite not winning the league by obviously automatic promotion, we probably should have done, because we've got the top goal scorer, the best average rating, we've got 2 players with the most assists, and joint first most amount of clean sheets. And if we actually look, we outscored everybody. Conceded wise, we are down in 4th again, so maybe that is where we could have improved a little bit there, but overall we got the job done. That's what I was expecting for this team. Data hub, we are going to go and have a little look at 2.22 goals per game. So yes, you are going to sacrifice goals compared to the other tactics, but we are, you know, playing as a lot weaker opposition now. 0.94 conceded, still having a lot of shots per game, pass completion semi-decent, but I think you're probably thinking what I want to think think, let's go and see these extra time goals, because Ipswich, they collapsed. This game was actually quite dramatic, to be honest, because we actually take the lead in the 89th minute in, you know, normal time. And that's probably where you thought we're going up. We've won the playoff final, but unfortunately we don't. Right at the end, they put in a very interesting set piece that somehow translates into a goal to tie it up 1-1. We then go into extra time in the first half, and it's a great ball in and a great header there from Bundu. And we still find time to make it 3-1, coming in through the middle. Great run there from right, and an even better finish. We'll take it. But that is going to give you boys and girls back home 3 variants of the meta 5-2-3, a default tactic. You obviously got a slightly more defensive one, a more attacking one. We've covered every single team, every single need you could ever want is in this video. Again, if you do want to go over and get all 3, you can do so by joining the Patreon and unlock all of these perks on the screen here. Show some love back to me as well and helps me carry on making this sort of content for you. If you ever enjoyed the videos, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And once again, you can always leave a comment, whether it's a rebuild or a tactic. If you're not over on the rebuild channel, go over and check it out. It is going to be called, instead of JoshDaly, Daily Josh, so we flipped it around. You can go and find that. Again, we're pretty much doing any rebuild, so you can come over and literally suggest anything, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.